So welcome to this next session, which is a panel discussion. We have a group of experts joining us to shine some light on this day's topics, which is the new role of digital in the property journey. I really need those experts for this segment, so I'm happy to welcome Cathy, Zane, Sydney, and Julie. Welcome to my Stockholm studio.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Very good.
Sounds very good. I'm going to ask you to give a brief introduction to yourselves and why you are here today as experts. So let's start with Cathy.
Good morning, Cathy Harrington. I'm the VP of Marketing with Lyon Real Estate. Work with about 1,000 agents here in Northern California in helping them be the best possible agent they can be and reach consumers where consumers want to be reached.
Cool. And Zane, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good, how are you?
Very good.
My name is Zane. I'm sorry?
No, please continue.
My name is Zane Burnett. I am the Chief Digital Officer of Willis Real Estate. We're a luxury boutique firm in the San Diego County area. And I've spent the last 10 years or so in the real estate space, handling marketing, tech, and the intersection of the two.
Cool. Welcome. And Sydney, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Sydney Perry. I'm our Director of Digital Content with the Corcoran Group. My focus is primarily on social media and digital content for the brokerage agents, which are in New York City, the Hamptons, and South Florida, and managing our partnership with Adfenix.
Cool. And then we have Julie. Welcome to our studio.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Julie Kozich. I'm the Executive Vice President for Dilbeck Real Estate in Southern California. We have 10 offices in Los Angeles. I have been in the real estate industry for over 18 years and have helped many different companies with their technology platforms and digital, and moving really that bar in real estate and giving the consumers what they need, giving the agents what they need, and how we can just really be better at what we do all the way around.
So together, I think we have about 100 years of experience, so we should be able to shine some light on today's topic, right?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you and start this discussion and maybe direct the question to you, Cathy. How would you say that the real estate industry has changed for this last decade?
Mm-hmm. Well, monumentally. I think for some of us on this call, we were doing print advertising when, real estate agents, were trying to reach consumers and spending, monumental amounts of money with very little return and no ability to measure that return. Now consumers are actually in many ways more sophisticated than the agents that they work with. They're the ones in many cases driving the questions around, who's going to see my property? Where is my property going to be seen? How are you going to access and reach consumers to potentially buy my house from 25, 50 miles away? And they're the ones that in many cases are pushing this with brokerages. And so we are seeing a consumer that is spending a tremendous amount of time online, especially if you're looking at the millennials. And so they want measurable results. Are you going to be able to get people to my open house and how? And so we've seen a huge shift, and we as brokers and agents are working really hard to meet that new demand.
But do you think that this new attitude is a direct effect of digital development?
Absolutely, I do, because before digital, our results, our ads, our marketing efforts were not measurable. right? And so now with AI targeting, for instance, where consumers are, every single thing that they do is tracked online, their preferences, their desires, what they click on, everything is being tracked. And so all of that data is being collected by brokers, is being able to be analyzed by us, whether we like it or not. There's a downside to that, as we all know. But in terms of property marketing, it's a positive thing, and I think that consumers are expecting a lot as a result.
Do you think that this is that might be difficult to know, but has this development surprised you, or what is the most surprising development for this past decade, you think?
So in terms of property marketing, I think what's surprising is the fact that it's a bigger issue probably, but where all the data is being used and how that data is being marketed to. We all know online, every single place we go, the songs we listen to, right, the movies we watch, the vacations we take, every single thing is coming back at us and is being served back to us based on our behavior. And I think that's something that it can be good, but it also can be very invasive. And I think that that is something that is been very, very surprising to consumers.
Sydney, can I ask you, do you feel that the real estate industry is, in the forefront when it comes to digital development and really following this development, which is a factor in every industry and society as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that real estate is one of the more unique industries in the sense that the whole reason why consumers would work with a potential real estate agent is because they connect with them personally. So another side of the digital development that I'm seeing, especially in real estate, is that these real estate agencies, especially our brand, is becoming more humanized and more personal and more authentic. And I think that that's another really large development with the digital trends. So our marketing efforts and our digital marketing is no longer just, about data and putting our ads out there, but it's really about customizing our buyer's experience or our customer's experience and making that authentic connection with users to then generate more business.
And if you're guessing, would you say that this is more difficult or easier in the new digital era?
I think that there's a more recent shift in, it was a little bit more difficult before because we didn't have necessarily as much information to utilize. Obviously now with the larger social media platforms changing some of their rules, we are seeing more increased difficulty in terms of targeting. However, there's the other side of that coin where it's easier to be more personal because we do have a better understanding of who our clients and our potential audience is so that we can better understand them to give them a better user experience, educate them better, and make those connections.
What do you think the most common mistake is when you're trying to adapt to this? And I think it's very interesting what you're saying about, the very personalized relationship you need to have with your audience. What do you think is the most common mistake to make?
I think probably the most common mistake would be to not take the time to understand who your audience is or understand who your potential clients are and understand what their genuine needs and concerns are throughout their buying process. We really utilize our agents as these great pools of information. And I think if you don't take the time to understand what the needs of your audience is and utilize the tools, which are your agents, to help fulfill their needs, then you're really missing an opportunity to generate that business with them.
Zane, do you agree with this vision of the changes in the industry, this very dramatic change?
Yeah, we've seen it across the board. There's the added element of the fact that for the only time in the history of humanity, presumably, we're having to bifurcate between, digital natives and non. And so to Sydney's point and also to Cathy's point, to be able to personalize that experience for many reasons, becomes a bit more difficult. We've read every article that there is to be read about millennials versus baby boomers. And then now we have Gen Z coming up behind millennials. I mean, even as we navigate this era of digital in an environment where there are natives and non-natives, so to speak, it can be tough, but it's also exciting. It's challenging. And, to Sydney's point, real estate as an industry is very unique in how it's positioned to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that exist right now.
Do you think that there are differences between, both different regions in the U.S., but also other markets globally, this development and, how real estate agents are meeting them?
Yeah, having a lot of friends like Julie and Cathy and Sydney that are in different parts of the country, and as with anything else, as we've seen in the media, there are differences region by region in terms of what messages hit home. I'm sure that, when Sydney is developing something for her audience in the Hamptons, it might be a little bit different than just, going across the bridge to the city or even down to South Florida. So that all speaks to this idea of personalization. We have the ability and the opportunity to be able to create a message that's dynamic in terms of who's receiving it. That's part of the challenge, is to identify what message will reverberate the most depending on where it's landing.
This development, from my perspective, also requires, a different set of, different staffing or a new knowledge. How can you meet those demands? Do you understand what I'm after?
Yeah, I do. And part of the unique position of being in this industry is that real estate by nature is, categorized as a professional services industry. They're not a product industry by and large. And so one of the things that has changed is this rapid desire to be able to maintain relevance in the digital landscape. Part of that means hiring staff that's well-versed in that and training up on that. But part of that is also being able to pick the right partners when it comes to providing those products that can enable you to have the reach and the efficacy in that digital landscape. And so it's a healthy mix. It's, to answer your question, it's finding the right staff. We're hired, 10 years ago, I don't know how many brokers were hiring, social media managers. Now I think, that's pretty ubiquitous with every job or with every industry. But at the same time, I don't know that every real estate brokerage is going to have the resources or the desire to hire a team of digital advertisers. And so, you're kind of met with the challenge of being able to hire versus partner with product companies.
Sydney, you have a lot of experience. Do you see that? I mean, can you see differences in this development in your industry compared to other industries?
Of course, there are nuanced differences. As we all know, real estate is a very nuanced industry. I think that the core base of it, though, is the fact that digital is becoming more and more prevalent. We now live in a day where you do not have an option to not utilize digital marketing. And I think that at the end of the day, every industry is looking to better personalize and to better serve their customers. And again, it's all about just having that correct message and, touching your audience at different touch points of where they are in their buyer's journey. And having the ability to do that digitally increases all of those different avenues and the opportunities to reach your audience at all those different points.
Julie, do you agree that, there's a constant talk about real estate needing to become more digital? Do you agree with that?
I think it's a very interesting time that we're living in, because I think that you have people on both sides. You have an older generation And then you have the new younger generation. So you have this, for the first time ever, we have a huge mix here where we've got the young people coming in completely digital, techie excited. Then you've got an older group that wants to be that, but they're not quite as into it as the younger group is. So I think that you have to really look at more of a human side of this. I totally agree with the thought of doing things where it's personalized. We're talking about how, where do you want to live? It's your lifestyle. How do you want to live? How do we want to be as people moving forward? We're in a time that we've never experienced ever, anyone in our lifetime, to where now we're doing things in very different ways. I've talked to people about this before. When Wall Street gets involved in an industry, it's because they see there is something there that needs to change. They're putting money because they see. If I look at anything, I think the real estate industry has been extremely slow to move into the digital era. This should have happened years ago as you look into other companies. I mean, look how well Amazon has done. And they started out selling books, but they saw that need, and that's where we are now. The transparency, the ease of use, taking away pain points. These are people's biggest things in their lives usually is home ownership. We change people's lives. This is really an important piece. So how do we get to consumers? The technology is fantastic because it has enabled us to be able to cast a wider net to people that normally, as Cathy mentioned, back in the day with print ads, that was local. And you might get into a big city, but generally speaking, digital has opened us up globally. So we now are looking at global platforms to where people now are aware of other areas and other opportunities for how they can live their lives. Places where their children are now going to go to school, and they're purchasing homes in those states for their kids to go to school. So it is a very different deal and industry today than it was back when we started many years ago, but it's exciting. It can be frightening for some people, but I think it's exciting. But I think it's important to have a mix of both. The pendulum has swung on technology, but you can't go so far to technology that you leave a lot of people behind who own homes. So it's up to us to bring it together to where we can service everyone at the best level that we possibly can, because we're a beacon of light and hope. Home ownership, that is something that families want. That's what people really, when they're working, they feel, I'm doing something, I'm owning a home. That's going to be your biggest investment in your lifetime to the investment for your future. So these are important times, and we need to look at the whole picture, and absolutely technology is there. I love the AI part to where it can get to more people, but we have to remember that not everybody's always on those platforms. So it's a nice balancing act of both.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you're saying, that it also differs a lot between different target groups, if we call them that. Can I ask you, Cathy, do you really think that, a digital transformation is necessary in every target group? Because we're not all millennials or Gen Z, and we have different needs also when it comes to this.
No, I agree with Julie said. You got to reach consumers where they are. If you're talking about millennials and Gen Z, they expect measurable data. They expect that you are going to meet them where they are. If you're talking about the baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer, but there are a lot of people who are baby boomers who are not even on technology. They're not going to see these digital ads, right? So you have to be, as a real estate agent, the average age of a real estate agent, I believe, is in the US is 53 years old, right? So even within the agent pool, you have agents who are very, very tech savvy and some that are not. As a brokerage firm, our job is to help all of our agents meet the needs of their consumers, no matter what strata they are, no matter how technologically savvy they are. Right. And so I think that, we need to be able to have a wide range of offerings for different folks that are selling their home. But I also believe it's important for us as brokerages to be able to coach and train our agents to bring value to a homeowner, even if they don't understand the landscape, right? If a consumer is selling their home, they're in their 70s, they've owned their home for 50 years, they might not necessarily be online, but the agent's job is to help them stretch and make sure that they are accessing consumers who might be good home buying prospects, right? You might have someone like, we're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so our largest feeder market is San Francisco. We're 2 hours outside of San Francisco. So how do we reach those folks? We reach them through AI behavioral targeting. And so our agents do not have, in many cases, the savvy, the time and whatnot to actually be placing those ads on Facebook themselves, nor do they have the ability to target anymore, thanks to all the changes that have been made by Facebook, right? So the AI behavioral targeting allows them the reach, it allows them the targeting, it allows them the ability to access new audiences that may be interested in buying investment properties, buying a vacation home in an area that's very different from where they live right now. So,
well, talking to all of you, I can't help but to think that, the more digital, develops, it actually just raises the demands for agents and everyone in real estate, really. Zane, what do you think is the biggest challenge to work in this industry today when you need to, be able to jump between Gen Z and, maybe a totally non-digital generation?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, best stated, by quoting that old adage, you can please some of the people all the time, but you can never please all of the people all of the time. That is the balancing act, I think, of people in our roles. It doesn't matter to an extent that upwards of 90% of all home searches begin online. You can say that, to Cathy's point, to somebody who's data driven, but say that to somebody who sees prestige or who sees a sense of pedigree in a brand or a logo on a billboard or in a spread in the Wall Street Journal, and the stats don't matter. And so what we're constantly having to do is balance that. And I think that's the biggest challenge because, for as much as a financial investment as a double truck in the Wall Street Journal is, we can reach the southern half of California online. And so being able to sate the needs and desires of both our agents and our consumers, because I think everybody will agree on this call that our agents are our customers also. And so we have to figure out how to keep them happy while still doing what makes sense. And that's not to say that agents don't know what makes sense, but it is to say that it's a constant balancing act. I think that time has allowed us to shift substantially the amount of resources earmarked for print. So that change has been a slow tide. But it is one that continues to gain momentum as the ubiquitous nature of digital and real estate in this world today sort of starts to make sense to those who might not have been used to it 10 years ago. And that's the challenge that I face a lot. And I'm sure that I'm not alone when I say I'd love to just never spend another dollar on print again. I don't know that that's going to happen as long as I'm sitting here. Okay. And that's a challenge.
But Julie, what do you see in the future in terms of this development? Will it be even more complicated than it already is? Or what do you see is going to happen?
I think that we are making such great strides and changes in the industry within technology. And I know that so many people are working for this balance that I do believe that we will find exactly what that balance is, because we're all very aware that we want to do the best we can for the consumer, our customers, and for our agents, because what we do is arm the agents to go out and work with their clients, that is the consumer. And so, and it is true, everyone is looking on other search engines, the big ones, for that's the sphere of influence. They're already on those search engines, and that's okay. But when it comes down to actually coming to purchase the home, they need people who locally understand what is going on in that local market. Not only do they understand the pricing, but really how does the area live, so that you can speak to lifestyle. And again, it comes down to how people want to raise their families, or how they want to live themselves. I mean, do they want to travel? Do they want to stay home? Things have changed so much, but I do believe that people are working on this all the time, and you're going to see that we find just that perfect match. We've made such huge strides in the last, I'd even say 5 years. You've seen major changes, and agents who are now really embracing this more and more, and they know they need to learn it, and they know, and they want to learn it. And I think it's making things where it's easy, it's beautiful, it's affordable, it gets out to the right people. And again, casting the widest net, so that we can help people sell their homes and help people find the homes that they're really looking for. Because a lot of times, especially a buyer, they don't really know what they want. They think they do, but they end up buying something completely different at the end of the day, because you don't know what you don't know till you get out there and look.
Sydney, what do you see in the next 5 years? What will be the biggest change that we'll look back on then?
I can only imagine the advances that are going to be continually made in the digital landscape. And I think that the biggest change is that brokerages are going to shift more of their focus into educating their agents, because as much as we know as the experts in our own brokerages and industry, it's up to us to then, teach our agents how to then relay that information back to their clients and to their consumers. Because as much as a client may like to see print and that brand awareness within a tangible physical space, the reality is it's shifting, and the next generation of buyers is going to be increasing with those tech savvy digital natives first. So it's up to us to teach our agents how to communicate that back to their sellers, buyers, renters, etc.
And Cathy, can I ask you? What in terms of those predictions? What do you see that? What is it that you in your role and your company need to change for the next 5 years to be able to follow this development?
So I agree that what we need to do is, our role as the broker is to always be on top of what the consumer's needs are, and to help our agents digest it, help them, build, partner with the best companies that can help them meet the needs of today's consumer, whatever that is. Their job is to sell real estate. And one of our biggest jobs is to help them sell real estate. And again, partner. Zane mentioned a third party. And I think one of the things that brokerages struggle with is finding scalable solutions, right? If you have a brokerage with 500, 800, 1,000 or more real estate agents, and you're trying to find a solution for social media, for instance, to help all those agents, very hard to find a scalable solution. So I think you've got to find the right third-party company that can automate solutions, because we want automation. Automation is going to be critical for real estate agents moving forward. We need to be able to have them sell homes and not be placing Facebook ads, not designing their own marketing materials. And so I think, again, it's up to us to really stay on top of that and to help our agents learn and meet the consumer where they need to be.
So I'm going to ask you all to give us one key advice based on your experience on how to take on this. I mean, we can all agree that digital has changed the industry, but it also is going to continue to change. So what would be your key advice, for the next 5 years? Let's start with you, Zane.
Sure. Well, I'll take this opportunity to say one of the things I've learned is that in digital and on the internet, things tend to be forever. So I'm going to take this opportunity to recant my statement when I said that I would never spend another dollar on print, as I'm surrounded by print.
That's a very clear advice, I think. That's a good advice, and I agree with you. I'm on your team in that.
Yeah. So, and on that, I'll say that my advice, and I'll make it relevant to the last statement, would be: we've shifted from an environment where print kind of supported digital, or digital supported print. And we live in a world now where print can support digital. And so what I mean by that is there is still a place for print in terms of brand awareness, extending reach and to be able to hit a certain market. But in digital, the restrictions are almost limitless. So make sure that your digital image is in line with whatever image you're portraying in the pieces of print collateral that are going out to maintain brand consistency, because at the end of the day, that's where people are going to be spending most of their time.
And Julie, where would you say that we should put our ad money for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I would agree. And again, like I mentioned, I think it's a mix of both, but definitely on the technology side for sure. I think my biggest advice would be that when you have technology, there's a lot of wonderful products out there, but everything needs to integrate. It cannot be standalone products piecemealed for real estate companies. They've got to have it where all systems integrate together and it's easy to use. And it goes out, because whenever it's piecemealed, that's when it gets really difficult to get the integration. We can have the best technology ever, but if an agent can't use it or they don't use it, it doesn't mean anything. You have to make it to where it's easy to use. And it is up to the marketing teams to make sure the messaging is correct. But again, if it isn't a system that is easy to use, then it doesn't matter what you're doing, because it's not going to be pushed out there. That's my advice.
And what do you say, Sydney? Because you actually also work with digital content, and we talk a lot about just technology and placing of ad. But what will the role of the actual content be?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this discussion, is that because there is so much out there digitally that your brand can produce as, a personal agent brand or the brokerage brand, you need to make sure that your content is really providing value to each buyer or consumer wherever they are in their journey. So I think that the content really needs to be authentic. It needs to accurately portray your brand image. And then it also needs to help educate them and get them one step closer to their goal, which, maybe buying, selling, or renting a home.
Yeah, I think you're very right about that. Cathy, help us to wrap up this session. What will be your last words of advice to our audience?
So I think there have been so many thoughts that have been really valid today from all the panelists. I think that I'm going to double down on automation. Because working with real estate agents for so long, I think they need solutions that are easy and effective. I agree so much with what Julie said about this being a completely unique time in this industry, and that agents need to be as on top as possible of, again, providing great content, leveraging storytelling. What are they actually trying to help their consumers do? They're trying to help them. They're not trying to help them buy a house. They're just also trying to help them understand the lifestyle of that, what that house is going to bring. So storytelling, automation, balancing the right marketing, whether it's digital as well as some print. We know that we do still have to balance, as Zane said, what we are putting out there for our consumers, especially at the high end where print actually still lives. And Sydney, also you've made some great points today about storytelling and about content. So I think, again, this is just a really unique time. It's going to be growing faster than ever. We think we've seen a lot the last 5 years. Just wait to see what the next 5 years are going to bring.
Yeah, I really want to thank you all for some very insightful advice. And I think it's we can all agree that, there's a need for, making something that's actually quite complicated nowadays easier. And I think that you all shone some light on that today.